Loveline, coast to coast.
It is Loveline. I'm Adam Carolla. That is Dr. Drew over there. Phone number 1-800-LOVE-191. Fax number 310-854-4455. Dr. Drew is a board-certified physician, an addiction medicine specialist. And tonight we're going to have Emanuel Sferios on. He is the founder and executive director of Dance Safe. This is an organization that promotes safety in clubs and raves and scenes like that. Yes. He's
correct.
I can tell by the way he ignores me and reads literature.
I've been coaching him. I've been coaching him before he got here. I told him to nod when spoken to. Just nod.
Right, good radio.
And keep reading whatever you've been reading.
Wave and high five, yes. Also, we're going to take some calls tonight because we're basically dedicating tonight's show to ecstasy. This is something we talk about almost nightly on this show. Some people, there's a lot of misinformation about this, and we're going to try to get some answers and get to the bottoms of some of this tonight, or I should say bottom of it. But first, I experienced a form of male rape last night.
Another one.
As a male who's never been raped, I think this is the closest I've ever come to it, which was I found out last night at midnight that I had to set the clocks up, and I felt violated.
Yes.
And I could only imagine that's what rape would be like for a female. That's what I felt like.
Stealing an hour from you.
Yes. Where is it? I'll never have it again. No, I mourned. That's all I did today. It ruined the 23 hours between the time I heard it and now were ruined. They really were. And I just think, why can't we just keep going? Just keep setting the clock. Let's just keep setting it back. And then at the end of 24 years, we'll lose a day. Isn't that how it works? Do you know what I'm saying?
I kind of know.
I don't want to go back and forth. I want to keep getting one.
I see.
I'd like to work that out somehow. When I'm in charge, I'm going to put my mathematicians on that one because I felt so violated. I saw the Bosstones last night, and they were great.
Good.
So you weren't there, Drew?
No.
But I was. That's right. Went out with Dickie, had a great time. All right, let's get into this ecstasy. Where do you... First off, I haven't talked to Emanuel about this much at all, so I don't know where he stands on any of this stuff. But what do you think of, legalization for it?
Well, I have a personal opinion, and that is that I don't know all of the solutions to the problems of drug abuse and the harm related to it. And I guess that's pretty much also Dance Safe's position. We take no stance on the issue of legalization or not. We do, though, know that the current predominant drug abuse prevention strategy, the just say no model or using scare tactics, is ineffective. Or let me qualify that. It works well with grade school-aged children, but Nancy Reagan tried to provide a model for grade school kids onto teenagers, and it hasn't worked, and drug use continues and abuse, and so we try to provide non-judgmental, fact-based information.
And do you do testing at raves?
That is a part of our program. About 10% of the raves we attend, and we have 20 volunteer chapters around the country, and I would say, given all of our chapters and every weekend that we're out there in a dozen or more cities, probably about 10% of our activities that go on at the booth are related to adultery and screening.
I think Adam's asking if what he has you can test tonight.
Yeah, I got some.
I did bring a kit here with me, and you're more than welcome to keep it.
Oh, really? And, good. Yeah, it's in the spare tire of my car, so it's going to take a little while to get at. But I'd like you to test. That's how I get it into the country.
Coffee you packed it in? Can we at least use it here?
No, I didn't use the coffee grounds this time. I just put it right in the spare tire.
How do you stand on legalization?
How do I stand on it? How do you? You want to answer for that, Drew?
Any victimless crime is a waste of the government's time.
Well, listen, I really think when you start looking at statistics on how much crime is created by drug use and the expense of drugs, I want to legalize it. I'm looking out for myself. If a guy wants to kill himself on drugs, he's going to kill himself on drugs. Meanwhile, I get to keep my car stereo.
I think
that's basically how I'm looking at it.
I think you're absolutely right. The reason I say I don't know if that's the best solution is because if you did decriminalize, which I think is a better term than legalize, because all these drugs need to be regulated. I think alcohol needs to be regulated more than it is. It might open up a whole host of other problems that we haven't dealt with. But it could very well be argued that the problems of prohibition seem great enough today that an alternative is worth trying.
The problem I have with prohibition, it's one of the reasons we're doing this show tonight, is it's hard to have a rational discussion with a young person about drugs for whom the current legal structure seems hypocritical. And
that's absolutely correct. Yeah.
All right, so let's get back to what goes on at the raves, and so let's just stick to. I want to get back to testing the ecstasy.
Yeah, everyone loves the testing issue.
What percentage of the stuff you test is bad or has impurities in it, or is something other than ecstasy?
There's a lot of questions in there. First of all, we like to say fake pills versus real pills rather than good, bad. Whether a pill's good or bad depends on whether you like it after you've taken it, and there's no way to know beforehand. Then we can give you statistics from our laboratory pill analysis program and also from our on-site pill testing. None of these are accurate gauges of the market as a whole, because the people who choose to either send a pill anonymously to the lab that we contract with, or the ones that come up to our booth, are ones that don't know what's in their pill, so it tends to self-select for the fake ones. But I would say about 40% of what comes into our lab is fake, and about 10 to 20% of what we test on site is fake.
You're saying they come to you because they may have a suspicion that it may not be good in the first place.
There are people that just don't know.
When it's fake, what is it?
The most common fake ecstasy tablet, the most common ingredient that's substituted is dextromethorphan, or DXM. And
is it highly concentrated? How can they give you enough in a pill to make you have any kind of experience?
Well, we did quantitative testing on the DXM pills at the lab and found the average milligram was about 150, which is a psychoactive dose. 30 milligrams is a cough suppressant dose. You get up into that realm, it's a dissociative anesthetic, similar to ketamine. Most people don't like it. That's why you don't know too many people who have drank bottles of cough syrup more than once.
Some people call it robo-tripping.
Yeah.
But even people who like dissociatives like ketamine or PCP typically don't use DXM because it's not a very good one. But some people do. The problem is, if you get it thinking you're getting the mood elevator MDMA at a rave, it can have consequences unexpected.
We call that the bad trip, Drew.
In your day? Oh, I saw Almost Famous this weekend. Speaking of that.
You wouldn't know about the bummed high. Drew got around to seeing a movie that's only, 9 months old?
That's right.
Wow. That's like a sneak preview for you, Drew.
Yeah, that and I saw The Contender. I saw 2 films in one sitting.
Oh, my, you must have been in an airplane.
How'd you know? Not in an airplane.
That's the only way you can see a movie.
Did you see Traffic?
No, not yet. I plan to.
I got a bad copy of it from my grandmother's in the Film Academy, and I only saw half of it. Now I'm screwed up. I don't know which way to go. But let's keep on with the ecstasy, and we need some calls tonight from people who have questions about it or who've had experiences with it. And is this drug as dangerous as Drew says it is?
How dangerous do you say it is?
What I say is that in my clinical practice, see people. I treat a lot of addicts. Like probably see 20, 30 new addicts a week, and I have threshold questions as it pertains to acid and ecstasy. If you've had one large exposure to either, and it's hard to know what that even means, but something where they took several hits, as opposed to one, or if they've had more than 20 ecstasy or more than 50 LSD. I'm putting them on antidepressants. They're going to have all sorts of mood and affect issues chronically.
That's interesting that you say that, because we see a lot of ecstasy users as well, and while abuse patterns tend to be short-lived, we do see compulsive users who'll do it every weekend, and it's been my suspicion that a lot of young people who use ecstasy compulsively, they take too much and they do it every weekend, may in fact be clinically depressed and not know that, because there's a stigma around depression in our society. And MDMA, because it releases serotonin, will relieve those symptoms temporarily.
Well, see, that's the question. Did it make them depressed, or does it attract depressed people?
All addicts
have both.
All addicts have issues with what I call affect regulation. They're all depressed when they come for treatment. 100% of them are depressed when they come for treatment. But then we're seeing them after years of substance use. Do they all meet criteria for depression a month later? No, about 85% don't.
All right.
But the LSD and the X users, always stay in that depressed state.
And it's interesting because we've suggested it in our peer counseling at raves to some users that they might be depressed and suggested they seek proper diagnosis, and many of them have subsequently got onto an antidepressant and stopped using ecstasy since. And then I've asked them, so what do you think, because when you're taking an SSRI, it prevents the effect of MDMA because it plugs the reuptake transporters that the MDMA needs to enter to release the serotonin. This is reported widely. So I'll ask, do you think you'll quit taking your Paxil, say, for 2 weeks every once in a while so that you could enjoy your ecstasy again? And none of them would say yeah. They all valued the benefits that they received from their antidepressant more than their weekly or monthly MDMA experience.
All right, let's take some phone calls. Drew, did you get another haircut?
Not since the last time I saw you.
All right. Seems like that hair is just getting shorter and shorter.
No.
Katie?
Hi.
You're 19.
Yeah.
What's up?
Oh, first I wanted to say, Adam, I'm really sorry about the hour thing. I mean, everybody's feeling it.
Yeah. I really feel raped. I'm thinking of suing.
Maybe actually, who are you with?
I'm thinking of suing the government and the estate of Ben Franklin. Didn't he come up with that?
Yeah, but I'm just trying to build a case here. You were with Dickie last night, right?
Yes.
Maybe you were raped.
I could have. I did have some drinks. I could have possibly been raped.
Right.
Maybe that was it. You may be right. All right, go ahead.
Okay, in August of 2000, I went to a rave and I dropped half a pill. And a month later, I went to another rave and I dropped half a pill. And then I found out that ecstasy drains your spinal fluid.
I love that one.
Yeah.
That's my favorite wife.
Do you know where it comes from?
I was told it comes from the fact that some of the original research, they did cerebral spinal fluid studies. So they did spinal taps on these people, and that got translated into... the point,
it's like the telephone game when you're in grade school. You whisper around the room, and by the end, it's nothing like it was at the beginning.
Here's the thing, Katie. If all ecstasy does was drain the spinal fluid out of your spine, I'd tell everyone, go ahead and do it.
Really?
Enjoy. Because that is an absolutely inconsequential... The researchers did it to study the people. It doesn't hurt them.
Yeah. So if you remove spinal fluid, your body just produces more, just
right
like
back.
taking a pint of blood.
You get a little headache sometimes, but that's it.
But if you got spinal fluid leaking from your spine, you would have to have been in an accident, and you'd be in much worse shape than you would be feeling right now.
All right, so Katie, your spine is fine.
Okay.
It's your brain we worry about.
Right.
Okay.
Half a pill.
Well, actually, my pill count is only one, half and half.
Right.
But
yeah, you're fine.
Sounds like you're a very cautious person. And
yeah, because of the so-called spinal fluid thing, I know it's not true.
Yeah, now you're free to really just load up on the dose.
But that's a myth. But there are other risks, Katie. Have you been to the DanceSafe website? DanceSafe.org.
No, actually, because of the spinal fluid thing, I stopped. It scared the crap out of me, and I just stopped.
Well, maybe that's good then.
Well,
yeah.
It's so funny. It's however people understand damage. They have to develop their own concept of what that is. So.
Right.
Oh, well.
All right.
So,
well,
any
Katie,
questions?
good.
You have a question?
Yeah, actually, I do.
Right.
Ever since I stopped, I have these uncontrollable shudders throughout my body.
Like shivering?
Not shivering, but like my whole body just shakes.
Yeah.
You did it 2 times. How far apart?
A month apart.
And then, how long after the last time did you start experiencing the shudders?
About a month later.
Yeah, that's your body reacting to you thinking you lost spinal fluid and freaking yourself out. Hey, listen, you took a pill, you broke it up into 2 pieces. You took one a month later. I mean, Jesus Christ.
There are idiosyncratic reactions. I've seen people have chronic, recurrent panic attacks after smoking pot twice. I mean, there are pathways that can open up or get enhanced by these things. But
there is the lightweight factor.
It's doubtful that it has anything to do with the ecstasy that you took.
All right.
It was probably from inhaling bong resin staying in the dorms, huh?
Yeah, if you're smoking pot every day, that'll give you a little trouble.
Are you smoking the weed, or are you doing it secondhand?
It's secondhand. It's kind of hard not to when you're living in the dorms.
Hey, Katie?
Yeah?
You're 19. I don't want to see you at 59.
Yeah, secondhand smoke, by the way, doesn't...
walking around like Howard Hughes with a mask on and Kleenex boxes for shoes.
But secondhand smoke does not include putting your mouth on the bong.
No, she's not doing that.
All right.
But I don't know. It just, like, even when I'm not nervous, my body shakes. Like the other day, after class was over, I went to talk to my teacher, and my whole body just shook. Get
checked out. You get your thyroid levels checked, and there are certainly medical issues that can come to bear here. And between the ages of 18 and 22, it's a real common age for anxiety to become a significant issue. So,
all right, we have Dr. Charles Groh on the line.
Yep.
There he is. Oh, is he supposed to be a guest tonight?
Yeah.
Oh. Wasn't brought up.
Hi, Charlie.
Did you know about that, Drew?
Yeah, here's all this stuff here.
You just want him on hold for 15 minutes?
I'm just listening in here to your last
Oh, okay.
They had him on hold about 2 minutes.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Hello there. Can we call you Charlie?
Yeah, no problem.
Wow, that's the kind of doctor I like.
Okay.
All right, so, Drew, what do you know about Dr. Charles Groh?
Well,
go ahead, buddy.
Just the papers at hand have...
well, did you read them?
I did read them.
Oh, I didn't even know he was on the show.
Yeah.
All right, what do you know? I thought you read them.
I did read the articles. I don't know his official title, if that's what you're asking. You can take a second.
Oh, okay. What are you doing on the show, Doctor?
Well, I was called up the other day by, I guess, someone on your staff. And,
right. He does a lot of ecstasy research. He's over at UCLA. He's one of the... You're at Harbor UCLA, aren't you?
I'm at Harbor UCLA. I'm the head of child and adolescent psychiatry there, and I have written on the topic of MDMA, and I have done some FDA-approved research in the past.
Okay. All right. And have you been listening to the show tonight, Doctor?
Just the end of the last caller.
I see. I see. Can you give us a sort of little nutshell statement about ecstasy as far as what you've learned from your experience?
Well, I think one of the important issues that I think young people in particular should realize about ecstasy is that because of the increasing degrees of drug substitution, there's less and less confidence that ecstasy is MDMA, and there's a certain amount of substitution that are probably relatively innocuous, like caffeine or aspirin or ephedra, but there are some dangerous drugs being substituted within ecstasy, and Emanuel Sferios has done some of the early work there.
What are they substituting?
Dextromethorphan has turned up quite a bit.
That's more damaging than MDMA?
We've correlated most of the heat stroke emergencies in the Bay Area to pills containing dextromethorphan.
And these are relatively high-dose dextromethorphan as opposed to the smaller amounts that might be in cough syrup. Also, paramethoxyamphetamine has apparently caused some fatalities in Florida and I believe Chicago.
About 15 now around the country. PMA is by far the most toxic substance that's being sold as ecstasy.
Is that a form of speed?
Extremely potent amphetamine.
Yeah.
It's not a drug of choice. There's one thing that everyone listening should know. PMA was only introduced on the ecstasy market because the precursors to make it were cheaper and less risky to obtain because the government's not watching them. And all of the PMA tablets that have been released on the ecstasy market are Mitsubishi tablets with the Mitsubishi logo on them, white, measuring about 7.5 millimeters across. They first surfaced in Europe
Hold on a
9
second.
years
Do you
ago.
think any of our stone listeners know what 7.5 millimeters?
Well, if they come to the Dance Safe website, we show them how they can use a pair of calipers to measure the pill to see if they're getting one that's a PMA. And it's very important that they do that if they're going to swallow that pill. They want to make sure they're not getting PMA.
All right. Should we take some calls?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's keep going here. Brian?
Yeah.
You're 21?
How you doing?
Good. What's up?
I got two questions. My first one, and now I've heard that that ecstasy can be made with either heroin or cocaine. Am I full of crap or?
Well, I would know this answer because
he ran a lab for many years in the late 70s.
I don't run a lab, but I contract with a lab in Sacramento with a DEA license who's legally allowed to test anonymously sent ecstasy tablets. And if you go to the Dance Safe website, dancesafe.org, you can see about 700 ecstasy tablets that we've analyzed using gas chromatography over the last year and a half. One of them contained a tiny amount of cocaine. None of them have ever contained heroin.
Okay.
Do they put LSD in them sometimes?
None of them have ever contained LSD either.
So it's DXM, PMA, and plain old amphetamine.
Then there's MDA. MDE.
What's MDE?
MDE, methylene doxyethyl amphetamine. It's
just an amphetamine.
It's a shorter acting. It's a phenethylamine like MDMA. sort of similar effect, I'm told, but shorter acting and more of a stoning. MDA, MDMA, and MDE are sort of in the ecstasy family, MDMA being real ecstasy.
MDA is even more theoretically neurotoxic.
Per dose level, yeah.
So the idea when you're sort of counterfeiting these things, for lack of a better term, is to try to come close with your high, right? I mean, is heroin or coke... coke, that much coke wouldn't do anything to you if you just ate it, really. I mean, the idea is you're not just selling pills and not giving a high. You have to give them some kind of high.
Because the scam will last longer if you give a pill that produces some psychoactive effect, particularly young people who may never have done ecstasy before.
They have nothing to compare it to.
They don't come running back to demand their money. They'll just say, I don't like this. This isn't what everyone else said ecstasy was supposed to be like.
It's a rather unusual situation in that when someone tells you they've taken ecstasy, you really don't know what they've taken. That's how things have evolved in this scene.
Right. And for half the people, especially if you're in a rave environment, if you're just sped up, you're having a good time. I mean, there's plenty of... Hey, listen, when I was 16, it's 26, 36, I would have enjoyed that.
They've actually done some studies where they correlated the incidence of violence and aggression with the probability of ecstasy being sold actually being amphetamine instead of MDMA or MDA.
Yeah,
and that people get more aggressive, more violent on pure speed.
Yeah. I would certainly agree with that.
All right, we're going to take ourselves a little break. Tonight is ecstasy night. It's something we sit here and talk about this stuff every night, and I've learned more in the last 20 minutes. Although, because of the drug use, I will have forgotten it before we leave the studio. But I've learned more in the last 20 minutes than I think I've learned in the last 3 years on this topic.
Good.
And Drew, you're right on top of this, and you probably heard a few things tonight so far that you may not have known yourself. So that's what we're covering tonight, folks. And if you've got some calls and some questions for that, we'd be glad to take them. We'll take a little break. We'll be right back.
Loveline. 1-800-LOVE-191. We'll be right back.
Yep, it is Loveline. I'm Adam Carolla. That is Dr. Drew over there. And tomorrow night's show is going to be very different. Andy Dick will be in here. So it will be nothing like tonight's show.
Could not be more different.
Jesus Christ in heaven!
Yes.
It's sort of an example of the effects of drugs, though, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a living, breathing example.
I think what happened with Andy Dick is his mom took in too much ether when she was pregnant with him.
Yes.
And may have poisoned him. And then I think he was dropped. Then he did drugs.
Jesus Christ in heaven! Where has this been? Send me an ounce of this stuff!
Who is that guy? Can you shut him up? That's not very professional.
Emanuel Sferios is here tonight. He's the founder and executive director of Dance Safe. Also, we have on the line Dr. Charles Grobe. He is a director of child and adolescent psychiatry at Harbor UCLA. One of Drew's very close compadres, right, Drew?
Very close.
All right.
Dear friends.
Dear friends. We are talking about ecstasy tonight. We have a couple of experts with us, and we'll try to get some answers to some of your questions. Angela?
Hello?
You're 20. What's up?
Hi. I have been a long-time listener for about 6 years, and it's the first time I've called, so I'm excited. I wanted to relate an experience. I have had a friend, well, she's kind of an ex-friend now, who's been doing ecstasy probably for about 6 years. And Drew's really right about the effects that it has on your personality and your depression level, because she used to be fun, she used to be jovial. Now it just doesn't happen anymore. She does ecstasy at least once a week, maybe every 2 or 3 days. So there are some terrible effects, and I wish that people wouldn't rely so much on the scare tactics of telling people they're going to die, because that's not the worst thing that can happen.
No, there's far worse than death.
Yeah. So there, I mean, it's just very...
I was just kidding, actually.
Sad.
There's really nothing worse than death.
They are sad when you see those cases.
Well, no, there's nothing exactly worse than death.
Dr. Grove, have you seen other ecstasy compulsive users or maybe addiction to that?
Yeah, I mean, years ago it was thought to be very unusual that someone would use the drug at that frequency. However, in the last few years, we are seeing more cases of individuals chronic use patterns developing. One question, though, I would have about a situation like this is, again, as we were talking about before, we really don't know what's in those ecstasy tabs. Now, some people, a small number of people, do have a compulsive need to take MDMA, if that's the drug that's in ecstasy, on a regular, relatively frequent basis. But some of these people may be taking ecstasy, which turns out to be amphetamine, which is a far more addictive drug. The problem in this area is that there's just a lot of there's a lack of clarity as to very often what these people are taking.
Well,
that's been very difficult.
How difficult is it to test for yourself?
Oh, what? To test the pills?
Yeah.
Well, there are a couple of labs around. Emanuel's been working with one of them that are licensed to do assays. However, they're generally speaking, clinicians are not provided with sample tablets.
But couldn't one do it oneself?
But these guys,
we do
just
offer
on your own.
We do offer a testing kit on our website that provides a limited but useful screen against a large majority of the pills that contain other than MDMA.
How much is the kit?
We ask for a donation of $25 or more, and it tests about 200 times. So it's.
I've seen a few of these cases of chronic users of ecstasy, and it's a distinct syndrome. And Angela's friend is sort of a characteristic example of that. They are definitely doing something other than amphetamine, because there are also many amphetamine users that use a hell of a lot of MDMA, and that's a predominant amphetamine addiction syndrome. These people are psychotic. It looks like a bipolar manic state, except their cognition is extremely impaired. They are incredibly paranoid, disorganized, and it's like, to me, it's like trying to deal with somebody who's been using massive amounts of LSD and amphetamine.
But listen, and for the young stone teenagers listening to this show, because we're talking a lot of numbers and letters, and we're getting into a lot of real specific stuff that people are having difficulty following. But to me, here's the bottom line, which is you're going to need your brain down the road. You just do. You underestimate it early in life. You don't really think too much about it, ironically.
They don't believe that them and their brain are related.
Right, and when you screw that up, man, it is, you can essentially do damage in a very short period of your life, just a few months, and you're screwed for the rest of your
I think
days.
You're underestimating the concern that young people have. The predominant question that we get on our website and in our booth is about the long-term damage they're doing to themselves. I think young people know that they're in a party stage of their life, and that when they get older and graduate college, get a job, have kids, they want to be okay, and they are very concerned, and that's why we have thousands of emails asking us what's going to happen later on. Is there brain damage? Am I going to be depressed permanently, or have memory impairments, or be a zombie? And
I do agree there's awareness of it, but is that strong enough to get most people to stop? And I guess it depends what your personal situation is. We talked to a lot of people who all that can be damned. They're moving ahead.
I don't think you're going to get people to stop taking ecstasy, even if somehow later down the line there are mild cognitive impairments, because anecdotally, young people don't see that now. The valedictorian is doing ecstasy.
Well, it's not,
but it may not be mild.
The cognitive issue, I don't think, has been shown at all. That's when somebody's been chronically using and trying to deal with them when they're under the influence of the drug. They seem cognitively impaired. But the affect issues and the chronic depression, anxiety, this sort of stuff.
Clearly, these people need to get off the drug and try to maintain some sobriety for a while. But I think it also raises an interesting historical issue, which is when the drug was first examined some 20 years ago, and it was first looked at as a possible treatment modality. It was felt to be a drug that could be only used very, very sparingly, because the positive effects were perceived to lessen over time, and the side effects would accentuate.
Interesting.
That's why therapists thought it might be a viable therapeutic drug, and that individuals would not want to take it
for depression,
in a chronic, repetitive way. However, lately we're seeing, because of the whole recreational scene and because the average age of use is dropping rapidly, we're seeing all sorts of patterns, I think, that were not expected by the early explorers.
Truthfully, Dr. Grobe, I'd like to meet the people that Dr. Drew his meeting who have problems with ecstasy long term, because the abuse patterns that I've seen and our chapters have seen around the country tend to be short-lived and do reflect the early experience of the psychiatrist.
Those aren't abused; those are addicts. Those I'm talking about. And these are people who have a biological disorder.
To get addicted to a drug, it has to produce that reward again.
No. You have to have a genetic issue to begin with. I mean, theoretically, you have to have a genetic potential for alcoholism.
Probably it's a small percentage of the overall number of people who are involved with the drug, but when you're seeing such high numbers of people taking it, even that small percentage can be, an appreciable amount of people seeking out treatment.
Okay, let's talk to our next caller here. This is Adam. He's 21. Adam?
Hi, guys. I just wanted to thank you for doing this show, first off, because this is going to help a lot of people who normally don't listen, because there's a lot of people that really want to know about this information.
Thanks.
Okay, and my question is, it's my understanding that ecstasy is classified as a level 3 drug or whatever, the same thing as heroin, and government cannot do any testing on it. Is there anything we can do to encourage to get it tested to see if there's medical uses for it?
No. I think the marijuana frontier is where that battle's being fought.
Well, what's interesting is that Adam, right? That's your name too.
Yeah.
Introduced tonight.
You've done your homework.
Yes, I did.
Introduced the show tonight with a joke about rape. That kind of ironically, MDMA.
I do a lot of rape humor, you'll find, if you listen to the show.
But there are a lot of people who are suffering now post-traumatic stress disorder because they're rape survivors. And there is a current study going on in Spain, perhaps Dr. Grobe knows more, double-blind, placebo-controlled, using MDMA therapeutically in group therapy sessions to assess its effectiveness in helping recovery from post-traumatic stress disorder.
And people have been traumatized. Why only rape victims, for instance?
Well, these happen to be rape survivors, not victims that are.
Population,
you want to control the population.
They selected.
That are resistant to other forms of therapy, and they want to see if MDMA helps.
What's the difference between a rape survivor and a rape victim?
It's the language chosen to use to help recovery.
All right.
Yeah, MDMA is currently.
All right, I don't want to piss them off. I'm just saying, it gets confusing when
I'm just trying to educate
around.
you. That's all.
I know all that crap, though. I don't like any of that junk.
Well, if you're serious about drug abuse prevention as well as healing, one of the issues is not to disempower the person who needs to heal by your statements and saying a victim or calling an addict perpetually always will be an addict. It kind of removes the power from them. And
but you can't use victim. Can you use victim for anything then? What about car crashes? Can you be a victim of a car crash?
Of course.
You can? How?
No victims.
No victims. I mean, I got to drive again. That's all my only point. All right. Liz, I feel bad for everyone. Don't get me wrong, including myself. Okay.
Or no one.
Or no.
But
whatever it is, I feel the same.
There are therapeutic studies going on in other countries, and there are a number of psychiatrists working for it.
And what happened with that? I mean,
it's going on currently.
Did they find anything? Or nothing conclusive yet?
It's been very difficult to get approval in this country. Approval has not been achieved as of yet, although there are some hopeful signs. Approval was achieved in a couple of European countries. However, progress there is fairly slow. You have to recognize there's a great deal of resistance around examining substances like this within a treatment context.
Are you familiar, Dr. Grove, with Alan Shore's work over UCLA?
Which specifically?
The attachment theory, the biology of attachment.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, that's the theory they have about MDMA that will enhance attachment or some sort of connectedness.
It's meant to induce empathic experience.
I understand. And I wonder if he had an opinion. I mean, he's really sort of the leading expert on the biology of attachment. I wondered if
I don't know. That would be a good question to ask him.
I can tell you the sociology of attachment. A lot of people will take ecstasy for the first time at a rave and have taken it 100 times since and have only ever taken it at a rave and have only ever gone to a rave taking it. That's a clear sign of associating the event with the drug. And yeah.
And you mean, and so you're in a positive, it
reinforces the
experience,
the bonding,
so it's like
the things you're doing when you're on it.
That's why kids love cotton candy, because they only get it at Disneyland and Magic Mountain.
Right. Otherwise,
I think if you gave them cotton candy, like at school or at church or something, they'd hate it. Is it that kind of thing? I mean, they're in an environment they want to be in, having a good time when they're experiencing the drug, so they have a positive association with it?
And one of the harm reduction issues that we deal with, isn't really talked about too much, is helping young people integrate these experiences into their lives in a healthy way, because it's such a positive experience for them. They do things like they tell their parents that they took it and now they're grounded, or they want their friends to do it. Now their friends think they're druggies, and they become ravers who only hang out with other ecstasy-using ravers. And that can be disruptive to a growing, developing teenager, and so counseling around these things is important harm reduction too.
Is one hit the standard dose for these raves, or do people doing multi-hits?
Well, one of the problems is the dose levels, if in fact it is even real MDMA in the pill, the dose levels vary greatly, anywhere between 30, 40, 50, up to 150 is the most we've seen. That would be considered a high-end therapeutic/recreational dose level. It averages probably around 80, so a lot of young people get used to taking 2-3 pills. Next thing you know, a PMA tablet comes along. It's not ecstasy at all. They take 2 or 3 tablets of PMA, and that is a significant overdose, and a lot of people have died from it.
And you could be doing some mixing, because you get the real stuff, or the pure stuff. And I'm freaked out on my semantics now. And then you get the speed.
With danger. Important to keep in mind that there's no very poor quality control with the illicit drug market, and it becomes more so all the time.
And ecstasy is the most highly adulterated illicit drug market out there. Adulterated is not quite appropriate, because it's not that we're seeing MDMA plus other stuff together in the same pill. That happens sometimes, but it's usually completely fake pills that have completely different drugs. So.
Right. So there's a very high percentage of people that are doing it that don't even know what they're doing. All right, we're going to take ourselves a little break. We'll come back more with ecstasy after this.
Hello? Who's this?
This is Loveline. 1-800-LOVE-191. Loveline will be right back.
Hi, this is David Allen Greer, and you are listening to Loveline with Adam Carolla and the one and only Dr. Drew.
Yes, you is, and he will be in here Tuesday night. David Allen Greer, our good friend, also our good friend Andy Dick will be in here Monday night, tomorrow night. So we'll talk to them during the week. Brian Herter, the race car driver, will be in here, so I can explain to him how many cc's his engine is, like I did last time. And he can explain to me why I can't race in the Toyota Grand Prix of Endurance, or whatever the hell's going on up there in Long Beach this weekend. Emanuel Sferios is our guest tonight. He is the founder and executive director of Dance Safe. This is an organization that has a give the website out, Emanuel. By the way,
www.dancesafe.org. O-R-G. Dance Safe is in safety, one word. dancesafe.org.
And also we have on the phone Dr. Charles Grobe. He is the director of child and adolescent psychiatry at Harbor UCLA. All righty, we're talking about ecstasy. Let's talk to Sarah. Sarah?
Hello.
You're 19?
Hi. A caller had said earlier that he heard that heroin was put in ecstasy, and the tester said that he had never seen that before. But I heard that the more brown spots, that was heroin. Does he know what else that could be? Or
this is a very common question. It's a rumor that's going around. You can tell nothing about the pill by looking at it. The speckles that you might see in it are simply variations in binder material that they're choosing to put in. And not only have we never seen it at our lab, but we talk to laboratories who test ecstasy tablets around the world, and they've never found heroin in an ecstasy tablet. Some people have felt heroin-like effects, particularly if they get a pill containing dextromethorphan. That helped spur these rumors along. DXM.
Well, and obviously there's a method to this. I mean, if you're going to try to duplicate this, you're not all over the map with it. There's something that works.
I mean, they want to make money, these people that sell these pills.
Yeah, and I'm saying, like any business, they're the tricks of the trade, and these guys do follow consistent pattern, at least semi-consistent, it sounds like. John? Caller goes by the name of John's 25, Washington, D.C.? I can't do more than that.
No.
What do you think his sign might be?
Libra,
John? Okay. Well, maybe he's high now. Hold on. Andre?
Hey.
Hey, you're 14. What's up?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to say thank you, Dance Safe, for all of your help, for just really being there for everybody. Because I go to raves a lot, and one of my friends has been taking ecstasy, and she has given a pill to you guys, and it turned out bad, and she hasn't taken it, and I just want to say thank you for that.
Well, I'll say you're welcome on behalf of all of our volunteers out there around the country.
How long does it take for you to get back to somebody if they send you a pill to be tested?
Well, there's two things we're talking about. If they send a pill to the laboratory, not to us, but directly to the lab anonymously, we'll have the result up on our website usually within 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And if they come to the booth, we have the result
on the
for them
spot
immediately.
Okay. Is there a long line?
Sometimes depends on I've.
It would suck if you thought you were in the beer line and you turn out you're in the ecstasy testing line. That would suck. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've actually had to tell people single file, please, because there have been hands with pills coming at me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's like Drew in college.
I was handing them out, though.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you
haven't brought it up yet. There's always a question. How can we do this? There's a public display of a controlled substance, right? Don't the police shut us down? And so I'll ask the question for you, so I can say
we're all for it. By the way, that's why we're not busting your chops on it. But go ahead.
Yeah, we have negotiated amnesty arrangements with the police in about half a dozen cities around the country where we test pills.
Can you do that?
Interesting.
They agree not to arrest.
Don't give him any ideas.
I'd like to do have the goddamn Culver City PD about these arrows.
Driving
work that out? Yeah, some driving amnesty.
They agree not to arrest the users approaching our booth because they recognize it's a vital health and safety service, similar to needle exchange programs or the unwritten policy that the police give to emergency rooms, often, not always, but often, that they won't pursue inquiries into people with overdoses showing up.
Yeah.
It's harm reduction,
right,
even though it's not called that.
And it's nice that we're sort of progressing that way because it wasn't that long ago. I mean, I remember when the clean, needle exchange program was brought up sometime in, 87, 88 or something. It got shot right down.
It's still
having trouble? Yeah, genius. Good. We'll all get AIDS.
The Connecticut Supreme Court just legalized it using the exact terminology of the needle exchangers themselves. So that's the highest court now, and
it's catching on.
I might mention in Europe, the public health agencies provide for pill testing at some of these rave events. In this country, it's only private groups like Emanuel's group.
Yeah.
But in Europe, the government has taken a more proactive stance to try to address harm reduction issues.
Europe seems to be better in almost every category that we count as a society, except for we still kick their ass about every 40 or 50 years, and gas is $6 a gallon.
Oh, is that right?
Those are the two reasons I still don't trust the Europeans. All right, Andre? Caller Andre?
Yeah.
There you go, buddy.
All right. I have advice for anybody that has been thinking of taking ecstasy.
Yes.
At raves or not. Well, I go to raves a lot. I've been about 10 or 12 raves. And really, when I feel influenced, I would look at the pill and just be like, this is my life in my hands. You do not know what's in this pill. You do not know what it's going to do to you. You do not know how your body's going to react to it. So really just I'm just saying this to anybody who would feel influenced. Just tell that to yourself. It really does help.
Okay. And Andre, you're 14. Why don't you stay home?
Well, I don't
like to kick your dad right in the nuts. Horrible job he's doing with Andre. 14, hanging out at raves all
Andre
night.
Is not the person that Dan Safe is that concerned about, because he obviously is a very risk-averse person. And
at
he's
14, at 16, it may be a different story.
Well, you never know. People tend to be the same, if they're
Wait till
risk-averse.
his scrotum drops.
But the advice he gave is probably not going to be heeded to by novelty-seeking individuals.
Yes.
So.
No, and I think we're all... we're doing this show, and you're doing Dance Safe, and Dr. Charles Grobe is doing his thing, and we're all here basically saying there's no way we're going to get anyone to stop doing things. Let's see if they can do it in a more informed way and a safer way.
Yeah. And the thing that's most interesting to me about ecstasy is that this is the one drug where there's absolutely no internalized stigma. Users will admit that they use. They'll want their friends and their families to use it too. They'll talk about the benefits. If our government cannot get rid of speed, of heroin, drugs where if people use them, they don't even tell their friends.
Right.
How can they ever think they're going to get rid of ecstasy?
I had to start doing coke in the bathroom here because Drew
I had a problem with it.
Were coming down on me pretty good in the studio.
I tried to get you to go over to MDMA.
Yeah, that's right. I remember he brought some once, brought a little sample kit.
Oh, I brought some fake ecstasy.
Oh, did you?
Actually, yeah. These are pills. I got a vial here. These are pills from the laboratory that did not contain any illicit substance.
Look at all the different kinds of
guys
pills.
at the Man Show are going to be so happy.
No, go right ahead.
Look at that.
Wow.
A lot of those.
Would you put one of those things in your mouth?
Yeah.
Look at that.
A lot of those contain dextromethorphan.
No.
Ephedrine, caffeine. Ephedrine, by the way, Dr. Grobe said relatively harmless. We've seen a lot of adverse reactions in people taking ephedrine. It can be a very, very harsh stimulant for a lot of people.
All right, we have to take ourselves another break. Of course, ecstasy is the topic tonight, and tonight's the night to ask your questions. We'll be right back.
Loveline. 1-800-LOVE-191. Back in a minute.
Yep, Loveline. I'm Adam Carolla. That is Dr. Drew over there. We're talking about ecstasy tonight. We have some experts amongst us.
I have a question.
Yeah.
With the name Loveline, it sounds like the show was designed to talk about ecstasy.
Originally, Drew was high in 1984, and this just came to him, or maybe it was a peyote vision. I don't remember what you were into back then.
Started as that. Do we have that on tape, in fact?
It's a good question, but no, although it does seem to work for us tonight. Andy Dick tomorrow night to talk about residual effects of drug use. And David Alan Greer in here, who really doesn't need drugs Tuesday night to be insane.
He's going to be talking about bipolar mania.
That's right. Emanuel Sferios is our guest tonight. He's founder and executive director of Dance Safe. Also on the line, we have Dr. Charles Grobe. He's director of child and adolescent psychiatry at Harbor UCLA, so a couple of experts. And then, of course, Dr. Drew, of course. Let's take some more calls. Carol?
Hi. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Okay, I'm glad. Well, my question is, let me tell you my story about it. I've been going to rave since I was 16, and I'm 21 right now, and I've done acid, I've done ecstasy, way back before anybody really knew what it was about, really before it was publicized and everything. And I started noticing, and my friends started noticing, even my family, that when I talk, sometimes if I'm talking to you or whatever, and all of a sudden someone interrupts me, I'll lose focus, and I'll be like, what was I talking about? And they'll be like, oh, you were talking about this, and
Are you getting depressed also?
Yeah, sometimes I'm doing my homework, and I'll be like, oh, I'm so stupid, I'm not getting it, and I've never been like that, and I used to fight with my family or whatever.
You sort of illustrate one of the problems with studying ecstasy is that people that do ecstasy also do a number of other drugs, including LSD, and it's hard to separate out sometimes the effect from LSD. Do you still see trailers after fast-moving objects?
No.
You don't see trailers?
No,
that's sort of, for me, that's sort of, again, a threshold sign of LSD.
Have you ever seen trailers at fast-moving objects?
I do sometimes. When I used to do acid, I don't do it anymore because I had a really bad trip, so I stopped.
But you don't see the trailers anymore?
No, not really. I've never really.
She saw him when she was high.
A threshold, again, a clinical a phenomenon that I've observed over and again is the people that have chronic depressions from LSD use are the people that still see trailers for years and years after their last exposure, potentially a lifetime.
Well, are you still doing drugs, Carol?
The only thing I do is I do ecstasy. Like, I'll go to raves.
Right.
How often?
Like, about maybe, if there's a really good one coming up, like maybe once or twice a month.
Once or twice a month.
But I've started noticing also that sometimes I'll do more than one because I don't feel anything, like I don't feel the effect. I'll be standing by the speakers or something, I'm like, it's not hitting me, and I'll buy another one, and I'll take it.
Hey, Carol, but you've been talking firsthand about some of the difficulty and some of the effects that these drugs may have caused on you and your ability to concentrate and things like that. Why are you still going with it?
I like the way it makes me feel. I love.
Is there alcoholism in your family, Carol?
Is there what?
Alcoholism in your family?
No, none at all.
No. Dr. Grove.
Yes.
Are you familiar with Alan Leshner and his sort of characterization of presumably the kind of syndrome that Carol's talking about? Because he at least his PET scanning studies show that the same exact damage that we've seen from heavy amphetamine exposure, and that indeed memory and affect are the primary centers being affected.
Right. Well, I think some of that research is quite preliminary. There needs to be more before we know definitively what the effects of are on the brain. However, I think your young lady's story brings up another issue, though, which is one of the confounding factors in trying to understand what the effects of the drug are, is that in addition that individuals are taking a number of different drugs, one of the reasons why people might take drugs on a frequent basis is that they're trying to self-medicate an underlying psychiatric disorder, particularly a depression. So that might be entering into it as well.
I'm hearing a completely different thing when Carol speaks here. I'm hearing an intelligent, articulate, concerned young woman who enjoys...
Junior college, right, Carol?
Who enjoys her
Junior college?
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's not go too far with the intelligent.
Who enjoys her ecstasy.
I'm doing good in school. It's not like I'm
doing good in junior college, like doing good in T-ball.
Here's my point. She's articulate. She's doing well in school. She enjoys her ecstasy experiences. She's concerned about side effects that are happening right now, and she has to make a choice of balancing what does she like more and what's causing it, and that does not have to be perceived as an illness or an addiction. I've talked to a lot of people who use ecstasy on a regular basis, once a month, something like that, who say, get a hangover for a few days after, but they continue to do it. And who am I to say that they have a problem from doing? They're enjoying it.
But you brought up earlier. She was saying she was having a problem.
She is, and she's grappling with the issues, and she has a choice to make now. And
hopefully, it's not too late.
It's not like I want to stop, but I mean, every time that me and my friends go, it's like I'll just bump into someone and they'll be like, "Oh, we're selling X or something," and it's really hard for me to say no.
So you do want to? I heard you just say you do want to stop.
I do want to, because it's like I don't you know how medicine and stuff like that, they don't know how far, what will really happen to you, what's going to really happen to you in the future and stuff. I don't want to pass this on to my kids.
No, that won't happen.
Kids be tweakers,
No,
I mean,
that you don't have to worry about. Not unless you use while you're pregnant.
Carol, if you want to stop, why don't you just not attend the raves?
All my friends go.
Oh, well, what are you going to do?
I think the idea of getting yourselves evaluated for possible depression is appropriate, because that may be what's adding to your compulsion to use. You feel crummy.
Right.
And then the ecstasy is making you feel worse ultimately, at least after the fact. And get an evaluation. You earlier brought the fact that you have a number of people who are on Paxil, Prozac, whatever.
What's the average? I just have a quick question. What's the average age at the raves that you've been at, if you could approximate that?
It totally depends on the event. And, what's a rave? Again, sometimes they don't use the word rave.
Well, what we traditionally call a rave, or what people picture when the word rave is brought up. I'm not talking about the club per se, but
I think the range is between 17 and 30, probably closer to, the 21, 22 age.
Well, that's
early college.
Yeah, early college.
I would have thought it was more even like 17, 18 or something like that.
The commercial massives, as they're called, the large ones at the fairgrounds and whatnot, they tend to advertise around the suburbs, and they draw a younger crowd.
Right.
And you do get high school age.
But you do see a fair amount of... You ever see a guy like 41, 42 over there?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Really?
Yeah.
And he's what he's trying to do? He's trying to nail 19-year-old chicks. That's what he's doing there. At least that's why I'd be there.
No argument.
Yeah.
But that is there's an accurate statement.
Yeah, that's you see these vultures floating around. I bet guys, they're 37 years old. They're sober as the day is long, and they're looking to score.
There's an interesting study done by a sociologist in England who kind of compared the alcohol nightclub scene to the ecstasy-using rave culture, interviewing young women, and found that young women who attend raves feel a much greater sense of independence and freedom, precisely because most of the men at raves are not just trying to get laid, whereas at alcohol clubs, that's a big expectation.
Well, that's probably true, yeah.
And I believe that's an effect of the MDMA. The acute action of MDMA reduces the sexual compulsion, and I think we need to research the psychological effects the widespread use of MDMA is having on younger generation. I've seen young people, both pro and con. I've seen young people make great friends and be much more open and emotional. I've seen men who are typically, me when I was 16, right, not talking about my emotions,
Sure.
So it allows more self-reflection. At the same time, I've seen young people make best friends at a rave when they think that they're going to be lifelong friends, and then or get into a relationship while they're on ecstasy, and then realize a couple days later, whoa, we don't really have much in common. So there's a lot of this generation now who's using ecstasy, I think, is experiencing an adolescence that is much different from that you and I experienced.
I mean, staying home, masturbating, and waiting for Starsky and Hutch to come on is not what's going on today. Frank?
Yeah.
You're 17?
Yeah.
What's up?
I've been listening to you guys all night talking about this, and one thing I haven't heard come up is that people die from this.
We did discuss it earlier.
Early on, yeah. You have some friends, something happened to somebody?
Yeah, I've seen 3 of my friends die from this stuff. I mean, not knowing how much their body can take and OD on it the first time.
What were the syndromes they got into?
The syndromes were...
What did you see?
Well, we're at raves, and pop one, and then they just start going into convulsions, passing out, coming in and out, and then just...
So it wasn't like they were up dancing for a long period of time after they took it or even before they took it. They took it and then immediately went down with seizures?
Yeah.
Three different raves?
Yeah.
That sounds rather unusual. The estimates on the number of deaths in this country are not altogether clear because of how we keep statistics. But in England, where their national registry there indicates that every year approximately 15 people die of malignant hyperthermia, and that's in the face of perhaps 500,000 taking the drug every weekend. So it's when deaths do occur, I mean, obviously they're always tragic, but they are relatively rare, so it's hard to believe that.
Well, I would disagree with that right now. I think they were up until this year, but I tend to get called when someone dies at a rave now because of the exposure Dan Safe has gotten, and there have already been 7 rave deaths so far this year. That's 2.33 per month, and that's way too many. The thing about this
what does the tox screens show?
Well, some of them haven't come back yet. One of them we know was hyponatremia, somebody drank too much water, but the vast majority of these...
Hyponatremia, a young, healthy adult can't get, no matter how much water
too much water, really?
That was the coroner's report.
But that's a medication effect.
Unusual side. There have been a few water intoxication deaths reported.
In
young women. Apparently, it's only been reported in young women. John Henry, a British medical researcher, had a study where he administered low-dose MDMA to human volunteers and found that in women, but not in men, the vasopressin secretion, the vasopressin level increased.
And the deaths were young women.
But that's the point, is that it's
maybe an association.
A healthy young woman cannot drink enough water to get hyponatremic without the help of medication. Your kidneys will handle it, period.
Well, this young woman was throwing up, re-drinking water, throwing up, re-drinking, and her friend said she drank 3 gallons.
Why would she do that if she wasn't high?
Well, this is a lesson that the harm reduction groups in England learned the hard way. The predominant cause of death after ecstasy was heat stroke, dehydration, and hypothermia. Right. So all the literature said, drink water, drink water, drink water.
Right.
Well, now there's a culture where ecstasy users tell their friends, make sure you drink water, but make sure you drink enough water, because that's the predominant understanding. And some people misinterpret that. If they're having a bad experience, they think that if they drink water, they'll come down. So you're panicking and you just keep on drinking. So now the harm reductionists say, drink water, drink water, drink water, but don't drink too much water. 2 to 4 cups an hour is all you need.
All right. So, but she did take the ecstasy before she then
I was
killed herself
talking about
with
the
water.
deaths. That's one of them, but most of them involve these settings. Promoters who are irresponsible and pack them in like sardines, and it gets to be 105 degrees on the dance floor, and then they turn the cold water taps off in the bathroom and sell bottled water at $6 for 8 ounces of water, and it becomes difficult to obtain to replenish your body fluids, and you can't escape the heat sometimes.
Those types of promoters are going to have a special corner in hell next to the publicist corner. Actually,
that's just the P section.
Well,
promoters and publicists will be under P in hell.
DanceSafe is about to launch a safe settings campaign where we actually are going to shift our emphasis from educating users to educating promoters and club owners, venue owners, to make sure that they take into account the health and safety of their patrons and put people before profits.
James?
Yes, sir.
You're 27.
Yes, I am, sir. Am I speaking with Drew? No.
You're speaking with everybody.
Ah, wonderful. Adam, Drew, hello.
Hello.
Hey. Good morning. I'm calling from Michigan, which is the birthplace of techno, which is what is played normally at raves. I must say, well, this is an informative show, and you guys are doing a wonderful job with it. You're looking at it analytically and scientifically, and you are not, it's kind of like tunnel vision. You aren't taking into the fact that there is a subculture based around this. I've been involved in it since 1992. It was the first rave I went to personally. I am a cross-addicted individual, recovering, and...
What addicted?
Cross-addicted.
What is cross-addicted? Religious nut?
One drug to the next.
Oh, I see.
However, what I'm trying to say is that you have to understand the culture and what these kids, as you like to call them, however, it spans a much broader region than that, are looking for is the endorphin and dopamine high that they can get through methodical dancing. It's like running on a treadmill. If you ever go to a rave and watch people dance, it's like running on a treadmill. And with that type of exposure, they're just trying to get the dopamines and endorphins into their body, just like you'd run, but they don't want to put on the running suit and sell out, as it were, supposedly. So it's not just the E at the raves they're looking for. They're looking for the nitrous. They're looking for the cocaine. They're looking for the marijuana. They're looking for a vast myriad of drugs.
James, what is the sort of social benefit, do you think, at raves? Why under that setting? If they don't, we heard earlier that men aren't seemingly looking for sexual partners, women aren't feeling more empowered because men aren't all over them. What is somebody going there for?
The best I could put it on point on all fours for you guys is to say it's more like the hippie generation, if you will, that it's kind of a commune of, yes, we are the Generation Xers, and yes, this is how we choose to express ourselves, and no, we aren't the hippies, we're something different, we're a little more aggressive. That's kind of the socio-political economic atmosphere that goes on there, because I mean, if you've got $25 or $50 or $75, which is usually the going rate for one pill, to spend on this sort of thing,
going rate?
That's about 75. 25.
I've never heard $75. I've heard it up to $35 in the Midwest sometimes.
Yeah, and that's usually the going rate. And if you've got that kind of money to spend, it's you're not really concerned about expenditures or what the substance is going to do to you. It's just getting that pumped up level high that you can only get from exercise, really, physical.
Okay. So it's all about arousal, all about thrill, right?
That's exactly right, sir.
James made a couple of good points and then let us down a couple dead ends. You got $75 to spend on drugs, then you are ready for the ending there, and it didn't make sense. But he's doing good. That's good. He's doing good, even with the cross addiction.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that too much on this show.
I do.
You just call them addicts, basically.
Yeah. The marijuana is, when I talk about the marijuana syndrome and going over to speed, that's cross addiction.
Nice. All right. Let's talk to Craig now. Craig is 19. Craig?
How's it going, fellas?
Good.
Craig.
I just have an opinion to voice about the Dance Safe organization. I just don't feel they're doing a service to adolescents. They're taking these pills from these young adults at these raves and testing it, and then they hand it right back to the people.
That's actually not what we do. It's a common mistake for people to think that we test the pill and hand it back. We actually scrape the pill and hand it back to them before we test it.
Now, is your organization, Dance Safe, the same one I think I saw on like Dateline or 60 Minutes a few months ago?
We've been on a number of those TV magazine shows, yeah.
Okay, I saw one of these on TV, and they showed the two people there at the rave. They scraped the pill and tested it, and the news organization made the point that I think it was a razor blade they were using to scrape, was not cleansed and it was not sterilized between each testing. So it's very likely
that was the
contamination using these pills.
That was the 2020 episode, and
hold on, let him respond. Craig, go ahead.
That was the 2020 episode who did absolutely the worst hit piece on us that anyone's ever done, and
I think I may have seen that, by the way.
All the media has been great, very supportive of harm reduction, except for the 2020 show. And if you look at their website afterwards, they got tens of thousands of people criticizing them, and we got thousands of people emailing us afterwards saying that they think what we're doing is great. The whole washing the razor blade issue is just a red herring. They were looking for reasons to make us look unprofessional. We're a peer-based drug abuse prevention program, and there simply is no cross-contamination between tablets.
Hey, Craig, if you can believe that all of us have an interest in just helping young people be healthier, how do you think it ought to be approached, if we assume that's your goal too?
I don't know. It seems that they're not doing a service to these people.
Well, see, I mean, but Craig, I hear what you're saying. I hate the kids too. Don't get me wrong. But here's what it is. I agree with Drew. It's like, if not this, then what? What are we going to do? I mean, chain every kid to the radiator that's in their entry hall? What are we going to do? They're going to go out. They're going to do the drugs. They're going to get into trouble.
Craig, every single person that has come up to a Dance Safe booth to have their pill tested was going to swallow that pill anyway. We've never enabled someone to find ecstasy they didn't already have, but we've successfully prevented thousands of people from consuming what they thought was ecstasy, but may have been something far more dangerous, like PMA.
You prevent them from taking something which could be far more dangerous, but the ecstasy itself is still very dangerous. Dr. Drew and the other...
And this is why we always tell them...
...testified that ecstasy is not a good thing. Maybe it's not the worst, but it's not a good thing.
I brought with me here in the studio the sign that we have posted on our table that we make every person read if their pill test positive.
I got it. It says, show us your... I saw that.
And
Adam, you're awesome, man. I love you.
Anderson, don't cut that out. Come
there
on,
it is.
buddy.
Can I read that?
This one?
Do you want to read that, Drew? Or?
There we go. Hit the mic. Good. This test produced a neural reaction. It does not mean the pill is pure. It does not mean the pill is safe. It does not tell you how much is in the pill. There you go.
Pretty much. All drug use contains inherent risks, and we always inform users of that. And in fact, we give them literature on the risks of ecstasy, which talk about the deaths that have resulted in neurotoxicity.
Here's the science about scaring young people. I'm sure Dr. Grove would back me up on this. Whenever they've studied giving kids scare information about sex or about drugs, they do cut back on their behaviors for about 3 months, and then at 6 months they rebound and go further than they would have had you just done nothing.
That's because they realize that they were being lied to, or at least the exaggerations, and then they don't believe any of the risks.
Dr. Grove, do you agree with that?
Well, I think kids will ultimately respond better when what they hear they perceive to be the truth. If they realize at some later point that they were
deceived,
not provided with the straight facts, they then might reject even the information that was accurate.
I think we're still living under the veil of reefer madness. That's why we can't have a rational discussion about pot.
Well, and you know, the thing is too is young people, we'll stop calling them kids because next thing you know they're going to start calling us pops, and then we're screwed. But they don't really work in shades of gray, and neither does the government. And so the government says this is going to kill you, or you're going to have a psychotic episode, and then they do it, and because it wasn't bad, it must be either good or not bad for you.
Yeah.
They don't realize that there are things in between not killing you and being good for you.
Yes.
And that's almost everything.
Yeah.
And that all drugs have some effect that is basically a shade of gray, somewhere in between the black and the white. We'll take ourselves a little break. We'll come back, and we'll talk more about this topic.
Hello? Is this Loveline? Call 1-800-LOVE-191. Adam and Dr. Drew will be right back.
Hi, this is Shirley and Steve from Garbage, and you're listening to Loveline with Adam Carolla
and Dr. Drew.
Wow, hey.
Haven't heard from those guys in a long time.
Garbage, yeah.
Garbage.
That's Adam Carolla. That's a good band. Kind of miss those guys.
Yeah.
Well, maybe she got pregnant or something and hung up her pick. I don't know where she is.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll have him on next week. Andy Dick is going to be in here tomorrow night. David Allen Greer. By the way, these two guys are two of the just sort of flat out hangout funniest guys you'll ever want to put behind the mic.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of funny guys who come in here and aren't that funny, but not these two.
These are classic Loveline guests.
Yes. And then the funniest race car driver in the world, Brian Herta, is going to be in here a little bit later this week. Tonight we're talking about ecstasy. Emanuel Sferios is our guest tonight. He's the founder and executive director of Dance Safe. Also on the phone we have Dr. Charles Grobe, who's director of child and adolescent psychiatry at Harbor UCLA. And let's get back to the phones. And Drew, I've not seen you go potty once tonight.
Yeah, you're right.
You are so stimulated.
I'm into this,
that you've shut your kidneys down.
Yeah.
I mean, Drew usually is catheterized during the show and urinates at every 10 minutes. Tonight, he has sat here and chewed on Emmanuel's ear the entire time, and back and forth.
Yeah.
There's a real love affair blooming here between these two. and possible relationship down the road. And Drew, maybe make some guest X testing appearance or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Celebrity tester. I don't know if they have that. Get Adam West in there one week and Dr. Drew the next. Tara?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
You're 18. What's up?
Hi. First of all, I want to say that I volunteer for the Sacramento chapter called Sac Haven.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
Sac Havens, it sounds like a gay porn.
That's the Sacramento Dance Safe chapter.
I see.
And I was always interested in
Volunteers
dance
don't have great sense of humor. You know what I'm saying? What is that?
Hey.
Go ahead.
What got me volunteering was my own personal experience. And I was at a party, and a friend had given me 2 pills, and they weren't ecstasy, and I sent one in to Dance Safe, and it turned out to be ephedrine. And usually you wouldn't think it was that bad, but with me I had a pre-existing condition of hypoglycemia, and ever since then I've been getting very shaky if I don't eat on time, eat the right foods, and just ever since then I've had my problems has gotten worse.
And what was your question?
And my question was, I've been taking ecstasy for 2 years now, maybe once every 2 months, and sometimes I'll get midweek depressions, like maybe around Wednesday or something. I'll just start crying, or I'll feel really depressed. And these last couple of times I've taken Prozac when I'm coming down, and I haven't been depressed, and it seems to help me. And I was wondering if that was a good thing. I should be telling my friends about it.
How long after you take it do you take the Prozac? I know you said when you're coming down, but is it
Next day?
4 hours, or is it 20 hours?
No,
or
I take the pill, and I'll be high for about 3 or 4 hours, and then around the 5th or 6th hour, I'll take it, and it'll
help cushion the fall a little bit?
Well,
yeah.
Users are taking SSRIs at the come down in order to prevent neurotoxicity, because
serotonin reuptake inhibitor drugs.
Yeah, that's exactly right, like Prozac, Paxil, Zoloft. Because animal studies have shown that the administration of SSRIs subsequent to MDMA has prevented the neurotoxic damage that they've seen.
You say damage, not. I mean, when you say damage, you mean physiological damage that was done to the brain, or just sort of emotional, psychological damage?
They're looking at the brains of rats, and they're seeing reductions in markers of serotonin functioning, spinal metabolites in the spinal fluid, reuptake transporter activity with a radioactively labeled ligand, and things like that don't necessarily mean damage, but most researchers think that there's some degeneration of the TIPS, fine fiber non-myelinated serotonin axon terminals, if you could follow that one.
But Dr. Grove, what do you think of that?
Well, it's a controversial area, and certainly there are changes, some of these long-standing in the brains of these experimental animals, although whether or not they are signs of damage is still an open question. After the degeneration, you get some regeneration. It's not yet clear how normative this pattern is, but the practice of taking Prozac along with the MDMA, it's on the basis, it's reading into the animal data and trying to block and affect the significance of which we're not concerned. There's one other problem, though. When you take Prozac on board with MDMA...
Serotonin excess.
What is the issue? Yeah, you could get perhaps some excess of serotonin syndrome, but also they're both metabolized through the
P450.
P450, 2D6.
Yeah.
And then will the Prozac impair the metabolism of the MDMA? You wouldn't want to run into that. So I caution people about.
But you're not going to upregulate that system or downregulate it in a single dose of Prozac, though, right?
No, one wouldn't.
The other thing I have a problem with is that although they're trying to extrapolate about the serotonin physiology, neurotoxicity is not mediated through the serotonin system.
I've said that many times.
It damages the serotonin system, but it's not a serotonin phenomenon.
No, what's happening
is that right, Dr. Grove?
Well, one of the hypotheses is that dopamine is released, and it's the reuptake of dopamine into the serotonergic terminals, which cause a degenerative phenomenon.
But it's not serotonin.
All right, but let me put Dr. Grove on the spot here.
Yeah.
If you had or have a son or daughter who was to do ecstasy,
right,
and they had the choice between taking Prozac 5-6 hours later after they took the ecstasy. Would you want them to do that or not?
Well, first of all, I'd have to really the whole issue of advising anyone to take ecstasy. I wouldn't, because what is ecstasy? We have no idea.
I know, but just hypothetically,
let's say you could give them MDMA. You knew it was MDMA,
right? Hypothetically, would you want them to take the Prozac 5 to 6 hours later or not?
Well, I would never advise a minor to take any kind of drug.
I know.
I can say what DanceSafe says.
Stop dancing for a second.
What I recommend to anyone that they should take Prozac to block the so-called neurotoxicity effect, which may or may not be a phenomenon of real clinical.
Oh, it is. I gotta tell you.
I don't recommend that they take.
You don't. So
I've spoken to a lot of other researchers, and many of whom are listed on our website as consultants, and most of them say, well, they're just like Dr. Grobe. They don't want to come across like they're advising any type of drug use, but they all have said to me, the answer to your question personally, that animal studies seem to indicate that it has a neuroprotective effect, and it reduces all of the acute effects of MDMA, so you're not more likely to have an acute adverse reaction if you do so, and so it can't hurt unless you have
the question of impairing metabolism though hasn't been answered. So there's some unanswered questions. It's there's so much unknown about this. I'd be reluctant to make any recommendations.
Okay, so we'll just agree that the jury is at least partially out on this.
I think.
When DanceSafe doesn't recommend either. You read our website. We simply put the studies up there and let the user make their own choice.
Eddie?
Yes.
You're 21.
How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Basically, I just wanted to comment that I'm basically a retired raver, so-called.
Mm-hmm.
I used to like going to raves when it was not so mainstream, when not a lot of people knew about it.
Sure, you're no poser.
You're 11?
Yeah, I'm sorry?
Nothing.
You're 21 now, yeah. What were you, a zygote when you first started hitting the raves?
No, actually, I was about 18 years old, and I really liked it because everybody was more natural at that stage. Nobody really looked at each other like, oh, could this person harm me or not? Basically, when it started getting mainstream, that's what happened. Like, the club scene right now, you always have that in the back of your head. Is this I might get into a fight with this person.
Really? It doesn't. I haven't heard that much about violence at those raves.
Well, actually, at the Masterdome, San Bernardino, I know of 3 different incidents where someone's been stabbed there.
There's not as much violence.
What other drugs are they taking would be the question.
It's got to be
becoming more of a poly-drug scene.
Well, and I'll tell you, having been working at raves now for the last couple of years, halfway through that, about a year ago, is when NIDA launched their anti-club drugs campaign, and we got all these TV shows and newspaper articles demonizing raves and painting them as drug parties. And since that happened, the culture has changed. More people have started coming to raves just based on what they've seen on TV, looking for drugs, and the original community spirit has somewhat diminished, and things have gotten worse now because of that.
Yeah, it's funny. They do a few specials on one of these TV magazines, thinking they're gonna alert everyone to the danger involved with it, and all they really do is I think they alert the parents and attract the kids.
So it's law of unintended effect.
Well, they manifest exactly what they put out, and that's something that the current prevention strategy of scare tactics doesn't quite realize, that if we provide a model, whatever model that the authority figures in your society are going to be providing young people is the model that they're going to use. And if all you're telling them is that, if you use ecstasy, you're ill and it's bad for you and you must be rebellious and you must hate yourself, and this is something that no reasonable person would ever do, it's abnormal, you're going to create abnormal use patterns in people.
Chris?
Did we talk to Chris?
Did we talk to Chris?
No.
Oh, you are. What's up, Chris?
You're 20. What's going on?
I'm 12 weeks sober, and for some reason, since I've been sober, I've had a real, a snappy attitude towards people.
Irritable. You're irritable.
Very, very irritable.
What do you mean you're sober?
I used to smoke pot heavily.
All right. People, when they stop smoking pot for up to 6 months, will have rather profound depressions. And irritability and suicidality are two of the most common features of that.
Oh, I'm the kind of guy I don't like going. I don't do anything the easy way.
I understand,
so
but just
definitely not.
I understand, but this is and the suicidality that I've observed in people who come off marijuana it's sort of a bizarre suicide where you don't sound that depressed, Chris,
No.
and the people with the marijuana depressions don't appear sad, they don't have psychomotor retardation, they don't look terribly depressed, but they have prominent suicidal thinking. It's very, very particular syndrome.
I used to do. When I was 16, I did acid once. I didn't like that. I did shrooms. I didn't like that. I did ecstasy once, and I chased 5 guys with a baseball bat.
Yeah, well,
it could have been speed.
Yeah, that's
how
probably true.
long were you
was.
smoking marijuana for?
Since I was about 9.
Why did you quit?
I'm getting older. I need to stay clean so I can work, get a good job.
You mean you're afraid of drug tests?
Well, not only drug tests.
Listen, marijuana addiction is the most common addiction I treat today. It is profoundly addictive. And Chris, are you in a program right now?
No, I'm not. I'm doing this all on my own.
You need part of the irritability. Listen, the only thing I'm more trouble with right now is heroin. And
you personally, or talking about your
with my patients?
I see.
It's extremely important you get involved with the program because it's not likely you're going to do this without some form of treatment. It's even with treatment a very difficult drug to stop. Call MA, go to some meetings, get a sponsor, and some of that affect problem and some of those irritability, some of these things you're complaining of will diminish rather rapidly when you get involved with the program.
I would have to disagree with your advice there. Not that I would give any advice, but you're telling the person who seems to have chosen and is doing well, except is being irritable, that they don't have control over themselves.
That's right. And addiction is when you don't have control. Addict can just stop. If you can stop, you're not an addict.
He never said he was addicted. He just said he stopped using. And
he's an addict. He's having depression from it.
Everyone's an addict.
Well, hold on.
All right,
Chris.
Yeah.
How many days did you smoke every day?
About an 1/8 to 2/8
a day. For how many years?
That was probably for about 2-3 years, and
okay.
then
that's the marijuana.
You smoked an 1/8 a day?
Yeah.
Holy Christ!
The marijuana addiction syndrome is absolutely reproducible in all cases. It happens POW, and they can't stop. They do not stop without treatment.
All right,
it's
Drew. Get off the high horse for just 1 second here. You're bumming my high. We are going to take ourselves a little break. There it goes. Out of the barn, Drew's high horse. We'll speak to Aaron. Aaron is 24. He's got a positive story to relate to us about ecstasy, so we'll hear his end of it after this.
Oh yeah, what it up? Loveline will be right back.
Yeah. I love this riff. It's Loveline. I'm Adam Carolla. It's Dr. Drew. Andy Dick in here tomorrow night. No doubt to discuss his new MTV show, which is very funny. Our own Dr. Drew was on that show on, I think, more than one occasion, by the way.
Was that right?
That's what I'm under the impression of. I saw you on it once. You look stiff as ever, but that's what they were looking for.
That's what they were looking for.
If that's the direction Drew needs to take, so be it. Done and done.
That's right.
David Allen Greer in here on Tuesday. Always good to see him.
Anything you can cause addiction, Adam. Did you know that?
That's him doing his version of Dr. Drew. And Brian Herta, who's really one of the nicest race car driver-esque race car drivers you've ever seen. And I don't even know what that means, but he's just a really good guy and a really good race car driver. So he'll be in here. Emanuel Sferios is our guest tonight. He's founder and executive director of Dance Safe, also hanging on the line for quite a long time is Dr. Charles Grove. Dr. Charles Grove's director of child and adolescent psychiatry at Harbor UCLA. Thanks for hanging out, by the way, Charles.
All right.
And let's see if we can get a few more calls in before we wind the show up. Aaron?
Yeah, you got me.
You're 24.
That's right. Hey, Adam, I just got to say right off the bat, man, I see you at Supercross every year. I think that's awesome. I don't know if you go because you like motorcycles or because they pay you to be there, but I see you there every year, and you're always hammered drunk, so.
Well, thank you.
No problem.
No, I'm there every year, and this year they said, Ann said, hey, they want to pay you $500 to go out to the Supercross, and I said, well, good, I'm already going.
Beer money.
Yeah, what's up?
All right. And also to the guy from Dance Safe, pat yourself on the back, man. You guys are doing a justice. You're doing a service, and I'm sure you're saving a lot of kids from having bad trips. But I just wanted to start out with my story because I always hear these shows like with MTV, 2020, all the shows on ecstasy are always about the negativity. And, I just want some people out there to hear my side of the story, how I went through it. I'll try and make it real quick for you guys. I started out at 18, started going to alcohol-style clubs and just got real bad vibes from all the people there. It was all competition. Went to my first rave, and it was a total different scene. Everybody was there because they were having their own fun. They weren't so concerned what other people were doing, and it was a lot easier to meet people at these parties. Everybody was a lot more pleasant and friendly, and I'm not even going to say the hippie part, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, had that attitude.
Right. So, anyways,
Nothing like a mood elevator to make people nice to each other, right?
Well, it just kind of lets down your guard. You're not at a club with alcohol. It's competition. At a rave, you're just there, and everybody's there. Everybody's on the same level, and it's all good. So, anyways.
No, I mean, listen. Anybody who's been around the block a few times with drugs and alcohol can tell you the time they got into a bunch of fights when they were drunk, and the time where they dry humped their beanbag chair when they were high on, X or mushrooms or whatever other kind of groovy substance they'd ingested. So obviously, if you got a whole, room full of those people, there's going to be a groovy vibe.
You got it. I'll tell you what, I was using probably every weekend for about a year and a half, and then, kind of broke it off, wasn't doing it as much, kind of became more of a casual thing every once in a while. And, I hear Doctor talking about all the negativity and all the, how everybody gets depressed. Man, I got no depression. I got none of that. I'm perfectly normal. I hold down a good job. I'm a hard worker. What am I, like, one in a million?
You're in the vast majority of ecstasy users, actually. Most people have patterns just like yourself. They'll use it once a week for a while, they'll slow down, then maybe they'll do it once a year for the rest of their life or something, and they don't get depressed. But there's enough people who do get midweek depression, extended periods of depression after using a lot, that there probably is something to do with the pharmacology of MDMA that in some people does cause...
And the other thing I've seen is that not oftentimes, but sometimes that depression doesn't come on till far later, like 5 years, 10 years. I saw this a lot with LSD. Are you guys studying any of that at all? Anybody? Dr. Grove?
Well, then I would question then what would, if the drug use 5 years prior would be the precise cause for depression.
How would you
down
ever
the line? I imagine there might be all sorts of additional factors.
Well, it could be. It's the kinds of syndromes where I want to blame it on the drugs are people who are addicts,
right,
who are going along and all of a sudden in recovery, into recovery, develop profound depressions that need like ECT and things.
Even
and
5 years down the line.
Way down the line.
Well, but then I even would want to go back further in time and ask, why did these individuals develop problems with compulsive drug use to begin with? Were they self-medicating underlying depression?
And again, I would...
What pre-morbid vulnerability did they have?
Of course they had some, but again, these are people who were doing well in recovery, stable affect, and all of a sudden fall off a cliff, and then and are resistant to pharmacology and need ECT. And
but that's not Aaron here. Aaron seems...
No, I understand. No, I understand that.
But that's basically what you're talking about with everything in life, even,
You don't have it till you have it?
Well, no. What I mean is, yes, I agree with that. But what I'm saying is, let's just take plaque in your arteries.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some people that have a sort of genetic predisposition to these things, where cheeseburgers are going to take them down, and then there's others that don't.
Oh, I see what you mean. You mean like that their brain vulnerability may be there.
And it's obviously the cheeseburgers weren't good for them, but without this sort of
genetic
predisposition for it, we wouldn't be talking about that.
There's something to that.
So I have always thought it was a sort of a combination of both.
You call it lightweight.
Yeah, I call it being a lightweight, yeah. Well, if you're depressed and you're taking this, then this ain't helping your depression. But if you weren't, then those are guys like Aaron that we're hearing about, and we don't know what the future holds for them. Sean?
Yeah, how's it going?
Good. What's up?
Well, I've got a question about my buddy. He's kind of been using E for like 2 years now, and for whatever reason, he started taking steroids, like to beef up or, whatever. And like I was wondering with the E and the steroids, would that do anything really, really negative to them?
Not the combo that I know of, although the steroids have their own, obviously, problems. Here's the syndromes that I've seen, is that steroid addicts, steroid abusers, usually are stimulant addicts also. So I would be more concerned about a more global addictive process here for your friend Sean, and I wouldn't so focus on the E as much as the fact that he may have a progressive illness and he's just picking a couple of interesting drugs here.
All right. Parker?
Yes, hi.
You're 18.
Yes, I am.
Go right ahead with your question, please.
Okay, I had a question about preloading and postloading. I guess that's a practice which I've heard of, which involves taking some supplements. One of them is called 5-HTP, which is supposedly a serotonin precursor. About the week before you go to the party, and you drop an E, and then I guess taking Prozac afterwards, after you come down. And I heard about that earlier, but I just want to know about how the 5-HTP affects it. And also I had a question about how many times you have to do it before there's, at least in Drew's experience, like a major functional change.
Again, I use 20. I had 20 exposures when I start worrying.
Where do you get that number from?
Just my clinical experience.
Out of his ass.
These are addicts coming to treatment. And 20 XC50.
The good news is with all this drug use is everyone's really becoming like a pharmacist. I mean, people. One good thing about drugs is people learn the metric system. I've learned that with cocaine and marijuana. The other good thing is that these guys. I mean, these people. Think how much more informed the average call we're getting tonight about what they're ingesting.
I think that is a phenomenon that we can credit the internet to entirely. Mm-hmm. I know that when I was a teenager, I had no idea about drugs. Where could I go to find out the truthful information about marijuana, for example?
Part of the problem I have with that is that at the institutes of higher learning, Caltech, Harvard, the more selective the institution, the higher the probability of this kind of drug use. And so kids use some of this information sometimes as a way of defending against believing that they could harm themselves with it.
Okay, we got to take a break before we launch into a debate. What about quickly preloading?
What about the 5-HT?
Well, we have some information about 5-HTP on our site. It is a precursor to serotonin, and a lot of users report that it makes the recovery time shorter, and that if they take it beforehand, it will increase the intensity of the MDMA. My concern would be that if someone needs to take 5-HTP to feel the effects of MDMA, they might be using too often and they're not giving their brain enough time to replenish their serotonin naturally. At the same time, I think post-loading with 5-HTP really can hurt. It will help the brain replenish serotonin from what we know about it, and if you experience depression afterwards, that is a mental health issue. Just don't use 5-HTP as a replacement for moderation. Less is more always when it comes to ecstasy.
We'll take a break. All right, well, there it is. I hope you know more about ecstasy than you did 2 hours ago. I want to thank Dr. Charles Grobe for staying with us all night. We do appreciate that. Emanuel Sferios. I know I was going to screw up his last name eventually. You can't articulate yourself any better than that. Oh, I'm going to strangle Anderson. And give the website out one more time, please.
DanceSafe's website is simple, www.dancesafe.org, and there you can find non-judgmental, fact-based information on different drugs as well as their issues relating to health and safety for late-night dance enthusiasts.
Thank you for coming in here tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Grobe.
And again, thank you again, Dr. Grobe. So, until next time, this is Adam Carolla for Dr. Drew saying mahalo.
I have to leave at this point. Tasty.
This has been Loveline. The opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the staff, management, sponsors, or this station. The producer for Loveline is Ann Wilkins Ingle. Loveline is a presentation of Westwood One Entertainment.